All right, guys, we're going to be talking about beginning drivers buying new and used cars. This is to educate you, give you information. You can always put your information into the chat. It's really important that you do that. So we want to utilize the chat. And I'm going to ask you these questions. It'll go quick if you guys put your questions into the chat. And I'm going to go right down the line. So the first question I had asked you is buying a new car a good idea for first-time drivers? I think it depends, right? It depends on your goal. Are you a high school person? Most of you are. Are you college? Are you in your 20s, late teens, 30s? Most of you are just going to use the car to go to school, go to work, go to football games, basketball games, see your friends, go to grandma's, grandpa's, cousins, right? If the car's road worthy enough, you'll leave the state. You'll go to amusement parks. You might go 3 or 4 states over, but your car's got to be really reliable. I mean, by good tires, good brakes, good exhaust system, good cooling system. And then what I need you to do is put your questions in. So there are 20 questions. You need to put your questions in for number one. Is buying an older car a good idea? And then I'll spin some of the questions. So you guys need to put questions in so I can answer them quickly. We're only going to spend a limited amount of time on this. So you need to put your questions in. There's no dumb question. Internet won't help you. This is real life questions. So you need to go ahead and put those in. So I would say yes. It can be a good idea because buying older cars are cheaper. They're less likely to stress. They may have some minor dings and scratches. That's normal. For example, a friend bought a 10-year-old Honda Civic for $5,000. That's a big chunk of money, but Hondas are very reliable. They're known for reliability and being affordable. So I need all of you to put some questions in for number one. Let's go ahead and put those in for me. Okay? If you sit here, you don't learn. If you ask questions, you learn. Okay? So you need to take advantage of this. So go ahead and put your questions in. There are 10 or 15 people here. Put your questions in. Okay? Internet won't help you. Even if you are about to, you're teens, you're young adults. Why are you here? You're here to get your permit. You're here to get your license. But if you're going to sit home for 2 or 3 or 4 years, you're wasting your parents' time and money. So all of you should have questions. So I'm going to go to the questions right now. How do you negotiate? We haven't got to that question yet. Okay, I'm going to number one. So I'm going to go in order. Myles. Myles, cars are different today. They could have 40,000, 50,000, 60,000, 70,000, 80,000, 100,000 miles. Cars are more reliable today as long as people change the oil. So if you have a car that has, say, over 50,000 miles, pull the dipstick out, smell the oil. If it smells burned, then there's a problem with the engine. Pull the dipstick out of the transmission. The dipstick is a long piece of metal. It's a little curl on the end. If the transmission fluid smells burned, I wouldn't mess with the car. If the oil smells burned, I wouldn't mess with the car. You should bring someone with you who knows about cars because you will get ripped off. You shouldn't buy or look at a car at night. Okay, you shouldn't tell the person, hey, I have 4,000. Hey, I have 3,000. You never tell the person who you're buying a car from, I have this much money. You always want to negotiate. And for some of you, that's going to be scary because you don't like talking to people. So I'm being honest. Riley, we're not on that question yet. I already talked about the miles. 50,000, 60,000, 70,000 is okay. But even a car with 30,000 miles, if people don't change oil and don't do their maintenance, the car is messed up. So you really got to check the engine and transmission. Those are the two biggest items in terms of money, okay? Repairs. We'll get on negotiation. I don't know if the car's well maintained. A driver will have all the receipts of when they got oil changes every 3,000, every 4,000, every 5,000. If I'm selling my car to you, I'm going to have the maintenance records from when I first bought the car. I'm going to tell you when I rotated my tires. If I want to sell my car for the max value, I'm going to have all my paperwork. Some people are car fanatics. They love cars. They'll have all the paperwork, and then that'll put you at ease. If someone doesn't have all the paperwork, move ahead. Should I buy a used car? Not really. Luke, if you're buying a car that's been in accidents, the frame could be bent. If you're buying a car that's been flooded, some people take flood damaged cars from down south, and they bring them up to the Midwest and they sell them. Okay, so you have flood damage. So you got to do your research. You got to Google. You got to bring a mechanic with you. Is it okay? Why is it okay to buy a car? Why is it okay to buy a car that has higher chance of breaking? I don't understand your question. You need to rephrase that. Remember, you are beginning drivers. You have zero money. So let's make that clear. All of you are beginning drivers. No parent would get you a brand new car, because if you crash the car, that's 30,000 gone. That's 40,000 gone. That's 50,000 gone. Very rarely will parents buy you a new car. So I just want to say that to you guys across the board. I don't care how rich you are. Well, my parents are super rich. Well, good for you. Hey, adopt me. Okay, get me a Cybertruck. Your parents are not going to put you in a new crispy car, because one thing, it's a very expensive cost. On the other side, you're going to have a reliable car that won't break down. So it depends on how much money your parents make, how much money they saved up, but all of you will drive fast. All of you will drive crazy. Why? You're beginning drivers, and that's what you do. Statistics say that. If the car was in a crash before, I see questions coming in now. Is there a huge risk in buying a used car? Yes. There's a huge risk in buying a new car. Example, there are new cars that have recalls. There's a manufacturer's defect. The motor could blow up. The airbag could blow up. It could break down. It could catch on fire. So you need to Google the name of your car and type in, are there any manufacturer's recalls? A lot of cars do have recalls. So I like your questions, but you got to do research. And if you don't want to do research, you're going to get taken advantage of. I like the questions. Let's keep going. Number 2, what should I check before buying a used car? A Carfax report, an auto check. Check the mileage. Have a mechanic inspect it. It might be better to buy a 10-year-old car from an old man and old lady who drive only 2 or 3 times a week, instead of someone who's in their 30s and they got their first car, they cleaned it up, but the motor's a little beat up. The oil doesn't smell clean. The transmission fluid doesn't smell clean. The tires are kind of worn out. The brake rotors are warped. Older car can be cleaned, polished to look new, but it's still damaged. A new car could have been in several accidents and fixed up to look really good, but it's still a bad choice. So again, it goes back to having someone with you who knows about cars, and a person who's trying to sell their car. Hey, can I take it to my mechanic? Most people will say, sure. If they say no, you can't do it, walk away. And that's going to be hard for some of you, because you found the perfect car. It's the perfect color, it's the perfect size, it's the perfect motor, but the person is like, no, you can't drive it to your mechanic. Any person who's trying to sell a car will say, listen, I'll drive it over to your mechanic. Let's put it up on the hoist together. Let's look at it together. But then if they're going to have you do that, you're going to pay full price. So you have to decide. If I'm trying to sell you my car, I'm going to have all my safety records, maintenance records, new tires on there, new brakes on there, fresh oil change, have it vacuum polished, looking beautiful. You want to take it to your mechanic? Let's get in the car and drive it over there. And once your mechanic looks at it, he's going to say, this is a good car. Okay, pay me $15,000, but I only have 6. Well, I guess you're not getting my car. So you have to look at it, okay? Is there a huge risk with used cars? First-time drivers, there's always a huge risk, because if you're ignorant, buying a car at night, don't know what you're doing, get excited because it's your favorite color, favorite car, but the motor is not in perfect shape, or there's an electrical issue. Electrical issues are very hard to track down, very expensive to track down. And if you buy from a private owner, they can't give you a warranty. If you buy from a dealership, they can give you a 6-month warranty for another $3,000. You're like, whoa, I only got $7,000. If you want to buy from a dealership, you got to listen. The key word is dealership. They're there to negotiate and get the maximum price for the car. The car might be 10 years old, but it has 30,000 miles, but it's a 10-year-old car. You're saying to yourself, Mom, Dad, this car is 10 years old. It's 2025. This car's a 2015, only has 65,000 because they found some old lady in California. They got the car for $2,000. They cleaned it up. They buffed it out. They're going to sell it for 10,000. And you're like, I really want this Honda. And it's very reliable. It's very clean. The dealership put 4 new tires on, put new brakes on, oil change, slapped a warranty on it, but you're going to pay $11,200. Plus you have sales tax. So you got to know what you're doing. I'm just going through some of the questions. Put the questions in. If the car was and it crashed before and it's been fixed, is it less reliable? Yes and no. Less reliable is a relative term. A crash. Did you bump into the car across the street? That's a crash. Did you hit a tree? The car be totaled. Did you get sideswiped? That's a bent fender. It depends on the severity of the accident. Cars can be repaired, but they have to disclose this car was in an accident to let the buyer know. But if you're too caught up, oh, it's a Mustang. Oh, it's a F-150 Turbo. Or it's a SRT Jeep. Or it's a Hellcat. Or it's a Trackhawk. You're going to lose everything because you're caught up in a motor or how it looks. The reality is you're going to be in a grandpa car. None of you should be driving a high-performance, fast car. Why? Your insurance is going to be high. Your parents' insurance is going to be high. Okay? So I like that. Let's keep going with some of these questions here. Is it okay to buy a car with a higher chance of breakage? It depends on the car. You got to do research. You got to look at the mileage. Did the person take care of it? Did they run it in the ground? Was it driven on highway only? Was it driven on dirt roads only? Was it driven back and forth from home down to Chicago, Detroit, Texas? It just depends. But most of you will not probably buy a car that's been in several crashes. How do I know if the car's been well maintained? By looking at the body, looking at the seats, smelling the carpet, looking at the engine, pulling out the dipstick and checking the oil, checking the transmission, looking at the car very closely, laying on the ground and looking underneath the car. Cars can be washed. They can be steam cleaned. If it looks too clean, there's probably something wrong. Bring someone with you who knows about cars. How do I know if the used car is reliable? Research. Research the make and model, online issues. Some cars have issues with motors or transmissions or brakes or electrical harnesses. You got to do your research. Some cars are really good and they have very few issues. Hondas, a well named. Some foreign cars are really good, but they're very expensive because they're a foreign car and the maintenance. Example, some of the Audis at 80,000 miles, you have to take the motor apart to replace the timing chain. That's over $5,000. If you're not a mechanic, they're going to charge you $7,000, $8,000 because your car's at 80,000 miles and the timing chain could break, and then you're going to blow up a car and lose $14,000 because you're too lazy to do maintenance. So a lot of these cars are really beautiful and exotic, but they take really special parts, special tires, special brakes, special rotors, special oil. And a lot of you are not willing, I didn't say you weren't, a lot of you are not willing to spend extra money for the maintenance. And that's the huge thing. And I'll share my experience now. I had a 2014 SRT Jeep. I'm saying brand names. It had Grimbo brakes on there. It had Pirelli tires on there. 295, 45, 20. Those tires cost $500 a piece. I cannot afford $500 a piece. I bought used tires for $150, $170 because I couldn't afford new tires. I knew how to change brakes myself. I could do that. I knew how to change oil. I could do that. Okay, it had leather seats, heated steering wheel. It was an all-wheel drive vehicle, so the transfer case broke. And that's where I got in trouble. The transfer case was over $3,000. Do I buy a new one? That's $5,000. I bought a used one. That's $3,000. Then I had a group put it in. They couldn't get to it for 4 or 5 months. I needed my car. But then the used transfer case started to break again. Then I sold the car. Insurance was very high on this SRT Jeep. But because I work, I can afford it. Okay, registration every year on my birthday, it was $350. You have to, every, whoever's name the car's in, every year, the tags expire. You're going to have to pay $50, $80, $100 to get new tags. You can't drive your car with expired tags. You have to pay insurance. So this is why all of you need a job, but a lot of you are not willing to do that. You want a nice car? You got to have nice money. You want a crappy car? You still got to have nice money. How do I know if a used car is reliable? Research online. Example, Toyotas and Hondas are known for reliability. My cousin has a 2008 Toyota Corolla with over 200,000 miles and still runs great. That's beautiful. But you got to remember, 200,000 miles. I don't know if I'll be taking that across the country. I don't know if I'll be driving back and forth to college, just 200,000 miles. But if you spend a couple of years with your car, you know your car. If you change your oil, stay on top of your maintenance, get the car serviced, the car can be very reliable, but anytime it could break down. All of you don't have an extra 3, 5, 7, 10, 14, 18, 19, $20,000 in case your car just dies. And then you have to make a decision. Do I dump another 3 or 4,000 in? Probably not. Do I buy another used car? Probably so. Okay. People are not going to keep giving you car. It's money, money, money. Okay. I'm going to put more questions in. How do I know if I should buy a car compared to lease? We're going to talk about that. A lot of you won't buy a lease. Why? You're under 25 years old. So your parents are going to get a lease car. You don't have established credit. Let's pretend you wanted a Cybertruck. All of you know that. You don't have 120,000, but you buy a used Cybertruck for maybe 50,000. It's an electric vehicle. Let's say the Cybertruck has 60,000 miles. The warranty on the Cybertruck battery only goes to 100,000 miles. Maybe you have a good job. Maybe your parents say, hey, if you save 15, we'll match you 15. They don't lease used vehicles. They only lease new vehicles. So that's the first thing. You have to be, someone Google it right now. How old do you have to be to lease a vehicle? Type it into the chat. How old do you have to be to lease a vehicle? Type it in. Give me that answer. 25. Some other person type it in. How old do you have to be to lease a vehicle? Type it in. Some people say 18. What is your source? Is it Google? Type in your source. Any person above 18. Again, I only see 3 or 4 people. I see Google. How old do you have to be to lease a vehicle? You really should be using Google Scholar because anyone can put anything on Google. So none of you are 18. So you can't lease a vehicle. So let's put that, you can't. Your parent could, but now, honey, you can only drive 100 miles a day. You can't go over 10,000 miles a year because you can get a cheap lease. You're going to put down $3,000 or $4,000, right? So most people said 18. You guys aren't 18. So think about that. I want to keep going. Put in your questions. What is the best way to negotiate a price? Do your research. Can the VIN of a car give you information? Yes, Riley, the VIN can. But people can tamper with the VIN. They can pull it out and put another car in. Let's pretend the car was totaled. They get another car that's in another location. They switch out VINs. You could be scammed. And there are people who buy cars that were destroyed and people are trying to sell them as new. So you got to do your research. The best way to negotiate is look up Kelley Blue Book. Find out the flaws in the car. Does the car have a dent? Does it have a scratch? Are the seats a little messed up? Is there a crack somewhere? You can negotiate prices. And if you have some good negotiation power, most people may say yes. Some people will say no. $8,000 is my final offer. You really want the car and you only have $7,500. They might say, okay, give me $7,500. But you don't have a warranty. You're going to have old tires. Tires are one of the biggest things you got to replace. Should I buy a car from a private dealer or dealership? It depends. If you know the person who lives down the street and they were an older couple and you've seen them driving the car since you were a little boy or girl, you know it's a good car. Maybe grandpa had a stroke. Maybe grandma had a stroke. Maybe they don't need the car. Maybe your parents know them. Hey, we found a car for you, Junior, but it's $5,000. You got to get a job. Get a job so we can get this good car. I don't want to work. Then you're not driving. Some of your parents will put that on your head. Some of your parents will, okay, we'll get you the old car. So do your research. Is it worth buying a new car for a young driver? It depends on your budget. New cars relative is 2025. Are you talking about a 2024, 2023, 2022, 2021? It depends. New is relative. New could be 3 years old. It's done depreciating. For instance, the Cybertrucks, let's pretend they're 100,000. You buy a used one 2 years old, it's going to drop to about 75,000. Let's pretend you want to get a Honda. New, it was 35,000 5 years ago. Now it's about 18,000. So you got to bring someone with you. Type in more questions. Also, what are the hidden costs with buying a new car? Insurance, registration, taxes, add thousands to the price. But the car was only 7,000, but you have to pay tax, registration fee, insurance, tax. Now the car's 14,200. Oh, I don't have the money for that. Well, I guess you're getting an old piece of crap. So when I buy a new car, I was surprised that there was $2,000 sales tax bill. This is true. You got to have a job. Put in more questions. Is buying a used car? Oh, now you put in questions. First of all, you're not 18, so none of you will buy a lease. So none of you will get a lease. Your parents will put in their name. But by your parents putting in their name, if you crash or don't listen, they're going to be responsible for it. So your parents got to really trust you. Some of your parents won't trust you like that. That's being honest. I'm answering more questions. I'm going to keep going down. How do I choose the right car for my needs? Consider your budget, lifestyle, must-have features. Do you want leather seats? Do you want a sunroof? Do you want cruise control? Do you want the nice stereo? Do you want the nice tires and rims? Okay, it depends on what you want. Do you want air conditioning? Do you want an automatic? Do you want a manual? It really depends. How should I finance a new car? If you can't afford it, paying cash. Well, my parents have $10,000 for me. The car costs $7,000, but you got to pay sales tax. The car's been sitting for 2 years. The tires are probably dry rotted. You need new tires. How much is that going to be? What type of tires you want? The cheap tires that cost $75. You want the middle price tires that cost $100. You want the really, really good tires that are all season that cost $150. Do you want new tires and get a warranty? What do you mean with the warranty? If you put a nail in it, a blowout, you damage it, they replace it free. But you're going to pay a lot of money. Some tire places do that. This is too much for me, sir. I just want to get a used car, and I'm not going to worry about it. Good luck with that. But if your car breaks down, you're going to be stranded somewhere. Let's go to the questions. Could a new car be more dangerous for a new driver? It depends, Riley, on how you drive. Any car can be dangerous. A grandma car from 2000, a new car from 2025. Any car can be dangerous in the wrong hands. If you have a new car, all the new features, but you don't know how to drive it, you could crash. You have an old car that doesn't have all the safety features, you could crash. It really depends on you, the driver, your maturity, your responsibility, peer pressure, okay? Every car is dangerous. I like what I'm saying. Let's keep going. Keep going with the questions. I like it. If you can afford it, paying cash is a good thing, right? However, financing a car can build credit. You guys need to build your credit. What is that? You need to get a credit card by 18, a $500 limit. Then if you have established credit, you buy an old car, then you get a credit card, you pay your credit payment on time. By your 19, you've paid your credit card for 1 year. Now you might be able to trade that old car in for a good new used car. That's a 2024 or 2023. But if you don't listen to your parents, then you won't have established credit. So that's important. I financed my car for 3% and you have good credit. What is the best time to buy a new car? At the end of the year, the end of the month. Dealers want to move that inventory. Okay? you'll get a great deal on a new car in December because new car dealers are offering end-of-year discounts. Do some new cars require paid subscriptions for certain features? Yes, Michael, they do. Satellite radio. If you have a Tesla, the self-driving feature, someone type in how much is the self-driving feature per month for the Teslas. Type it in. They are hidden costs. Satellite radio, certain subscription services. This is how businesses make money. Car washes across the country. You can get unlimited car washes, but you're going to pay $25 a month. That kind of makes sense if you want to keep your car clean. Most people don't wash their car every day, or every other day, or every 4 days, or every week. Okay, $99 a month for self-driving. Bro, I'll do that 3 or 4 months. $8,000 up front. No, I'm doing $99 a month. No one's going to pay $8,000 up front unless you have a lot of money. Think about what Michael just said. $99 a month self-driving. And if you really like it, you'll work it out. Tesla self-driving features $8,000 up front or $99 a month. I'm going with $99 a month. I can't afford $8,000. Okay, leasing cars. Put in more questions. Let's keep going here. Leasing cars. What does it mean to lease a car? Leasing is like renting a car for a certain period of time, 2 or 3 years. But if you go over mileage, they're going to pay you. Type in, guys, type in over mileage for a Corvette. Type in over mileage for a Ram 1500. Type in over mileage for an F-150. Type in over mileage for a Tesla. Type in over mileage for a, I'm trying to give you a brand name vehicle. I mentioned trucks. Type in over mileage so you know how much you're going to pay. So over mileage means you can only drive a certain amount of miles per year. Some people get a 3-year lease, only 10,000 miles. The average, someone type in, what is the average amount? Tesla, 25 cents a mile. If you're over 10,000 miles, Madison put in 10,000 times 25, 0.25. That's how much you're going to have to pay if you go over mileage. Someone type in over mileage on a Ram 1500. Someone type in over mileage on an F-150. I'm trying to show you sometimes leasing F-150 is 200,000. Michael, I don't know what you're doing. It's not $200,000. 25 cents a mile. Thank you. A Corvette. So Madison, I'm confused. So 10,000. I'm confused. You have 10,000 equal 2,500. You gotta explain it.
Miles.
Say again.
10,000 miles.
Yeah, that's what it was for mine too. Was 200,000 miles.
No. Over mileage. Okay, if you buy a leased vehicle, you have to negotiate, okay, for 3 years, I want a 3-year lease for 15,000 miles. Or I want a 3-year lease for 35,000 miles. Some companies are willing to negotiate a high mileage lease, 10,000, 12,000, 14,000. So this is why a leased vehicle might not be good for a beginning driver because you're going to drive a lot of mileage. Leased vehicles are good for older people. I'm just driving back and forth to church. I'm going to go see my granddaughter with the new grandson. I'm going to go on Wednesdays to the dog clinic to donate my time. I'm going to sub 1 time a week at the high school. But people who have low leases can, with the lease, you can have a new vehicle every 3 or 4 years. Okay? Every 3 or 4 years. Some people like that. Okay? Once you buy your car, you lose money. Let's pretend you buy a Cybertruck. In 1 year, you've lost $20,000. It's called depreciation. Type it in, guys. You want to buy a 2024. It's 2025. How much does a Ram 1500 depreciate yearly? How much does a Ford F-150 depreciate yearly? How much does a Camaro Z28 depreciate? I'm just throwing some cars out. Okay? Smaller cars. How much does a Mach-E Mustang depreciate every year? All the sources look at them and say F-150 can last. We're talking about last. I'm talking about depreciation. It said could last. Are you making oil changes? Is this person doing proper maintenance? Some people might not want to buy a car that has 150,000 miles. Michael, that's good information, but let's talk about depreciation. How much does a car lose? Usually it's the first 3 years. After about 3 years, it doesn't lose as much money. Okay? So F-150 depreciates 15 to 25 in the first 5 years. That's about right. Thank you. So now you're learning about depreciation. Let's keep going here. I'm just giving you some brand names. Type it in. Is lease cheaper than buying? The answer is in the short term, yes. But you don't build equity. Meaning, for instance, your house. Your parents live in a home. They bought the home. They can borrow against the home. In a lease vehicle, you don't really own the car. The finance company owns the car. If you have an accident, you have something called gap insurance. You hit a tree. Okay, they're going to pay off the price of the car, but there's some residual value. Okay. In the short term, yes, it is cheaper to lease. I lease a car for $250 a month, which is cheaper than buying it. You have to return the car in 2 years, 3 years. What happens at the end of the lease? You can return the car, buy it, or lease a new one. My friend returned her leased car and upgraded to a new model. That's what my wife does. She leases. She usually saves under mileage. Every 2 years, 3 years, she's rolling in a new vehicle. But that's not good for me because I drive a lot. My son drives a lot. Daughter drives a lot. So it's not good. It depends on your family. Are there mileage limits on leasing? Yes. On an average 12,000 miles. If you go over mileage, you're going to have to pay 25 cents a mile. Some are higher. Some are lower. Can I negotiate a lease? Yes. Negotiating the price of a lease, miles, monthly payments, I get a lower monthly payment and you put down a larger down payment up front. So for some of you, a lease might be good if your mom and dad are willing to get it in their name and you make an agreement. You can't go over 15,000 miles a year. Then in 3 years before you go to college, you can buy this car out. Because if you lease it and the transmission blows up, you give it back. I want a new car. Or the motor blows up. I want a new car. But if you didn't change the oil and you didn't do maintenance, the company will not replace what you broke. Keep putting those questions in. How do I avoid getting scammed when buying a car? One person said it. Check the VIN. Meet in person. Avoid deals that seem too good to be true. I almost fell for a scam where the seller asked me for a deposit. No one should ever ask you for a deposit before seeing the car. Go for a drive. Bring someone with you. Check the VIN. The VIN is usually on the dashboard. It's on the side of the door. It's welded to the frame. You should be able to see the VIN through the windshield. And that will tell you the year, make, and model of the car. Always meet in person. Check the VIN. Avoid deals that seem good to be true. Put in your questions. We're almost done with this. What is the best car for a young driver? It depends. You want something that's reliable, affordable, has good safety features. Honda, Toyota Corolla. My first car was the Civic. It was the perfect budget. They last a long time. They're very reliable. You just have to stay on top of your oil changes and maintenance. You have to. I just bought a 2015 Toyota Camry today for $11,000. It had 90,000 miles. That's not bad. That's not bad, but you got to look at it. Are you driving back and forth in town? Are you going out of the state, 3 states over? You know, can you afford if the car breaks down? That's a lot. How do I handle maintenance as a new driver? Follow the owner's manual, take it to a trusted mechanic, learn basic maintenance like oil changes. The guy on Car Talk says the 1963 Dart convertible is the best for young drivers. Your insurance will kill you. Your parents won't let you buy a car that old. It doesn't have modern safety features. Son, daughter, don't believe everything you hear. Okay? So there's research that we talk about in class. Usually cars that are 10 years old, that seems to be the window. If it's 2025, that's going to take you back. So you got to look at everything. I need all of you. The car guy is old, though. So old doesn't mean anything. Some of you have old shoes on. Doesn't mean anything. Some of you have the same hairstyle from when you were 10. Right? Some of you use the same toothbrush from 3 years ago. So old is a relative term. Just because something is old doesn't mean that it's good or bad. Old is a relative term. We associate old with negative. Okay, I have a 4070 Ti video card. That's old, but it's still good. Okay, I have a 10700K chip. It's old, but it's still good. Right? I have a 27-inch curved monitor that's 165 hertz. It's over 4 years old. It's old, but it's still good. I have S22 Ultra. It's old, but it's still good. The S24, 25 Ultras, I hear are overheating. If I trade in my phone, I can get $800. My phone is a lease phone. My lease is up. I just turn my phone in and I can get a new one. I need to turn in my phone. I can get $800. A lot of you can't say that because your parents are buying you the phone. I can go trade in my phone right now and get an S24 or S23 that has better camera, more memory, blah, blah, blah. So old is a relative term. Some of your parents have moved into an old house. Oh, well, the furnace is $10,000. The roof is $10,000. Okay, there might be mold in the house. My daughter sells homes. She's a real estate agent. A lot of people can't afford the inspection. That's stupid. But they want the house really bad, so they're gambling. A home inspection protects you. Bring someone with you. Does the car you decide to buy depend on the travel and mileage? Yes. Good question. Okay, so we talked about buying old cars, buying new cars, leasing cars. General questions. It just depends on what you want to do as a young driver. Type in what you learned, please. Type in what you learned. Everyone type in what they learned. Please and thank you. Type in what you learned. It's a good session. I need some thumbs up, team. We talking about cars, old cars, new cars, lease cars. Come on, man. This is value. Get some thumbs up. Type in what you learned, please and thank you. Everyone needs to type in what they learned. I should see information popping in. Now, if you lease a car that has problems, you can take it back, but to the dealer. But you gotta get off work. You gotta get off school. You don't have a backup car. What if your job is a half an hour away? You make good money, but it's a half an hour away. Your car is broken. It's a lease. Your parents work. You're gonna lose your job. Why? You can't get back. Your boss will say, you know what? We understand, you've been late 5 times. We know your car breaks down, but your boss can only understand so much. You're going to lose your job because other young people will take your job. Then if you lose your job, your parents will be like, honey, we can't help you. You lost your job. You agreed to pay $150. We agreed to pay $150. That's $300. But you lost your job. We can't take over the car payment. So if your mom and dad co-sign for you, if you can't make that car payment, your parents are stuck with that car. So it hurts you and helps you. You got to establish credit. Carfax. Dealerships are always looking to take advantage of you, right? They'll charge you for a special rain repellent, a special paint protection that you don't really need. But because you don't know about these things, you're going to pay extra $3,000 for stuff you don't even need. Dealers are always looking to maximize, but you got to maximize too. You got to have room to negotiate. And when I had my SRT Jeep, I had it detailed, I had it cleaned up. I went around to like 20 different dealerships. One dealership said $25,000. One dealership said $10,000. Another dealership said $4,000. Another dealership said, hey, you got scratches in your car. I know that. You got this in your car. I know that. We're going to give you $3,000. Bye. I went to another place. They were going to offer me $8,000. Bye. So I shopped my vehicle around because I knew how much it was worth. I knew my vehicle was worth a certain amount of money. I had new tires on it. I had new brakes on it. There were a few stains on the seat, not from me. There was a scratch. I don't know, I think my daughter was driving to school, no cap, but someone keyed the car. It was a deep scratch on the door. Okay, if you're very interested, I can post some videos. I do have some videos of the car at the dealership. What they did, they totally detailed the car, buffed it out, had it looking super clean. Okay, and I knew how much it was worth. If I put new tires on it, new brakes, I could get another $1,500, $2,000. I lost money, but I made money. Okay, so you got to know what to do. And if your mom and dad are not really car people, they're like, just junk the car. Mom and dad, I'm trying to get the most I can. Well, we don't have time to play. Do you want this car or not? You'll lose money if you're impatient. At the end of the day, you want to buy a car that you can afford. We have made up 45 minutes, so is there anything they can do, brother, after? So how long do you need to be here, Caleb?
Me and my brother for about 45 minutes.
Okay, are you done or you got 45 minutes more?
We're done.
Bye.
All right, thank you.
Yep. So it's important, guys, that you shop around, you take your time, you do your research. They're good lease deals, they're bad lease deals. They're good used cars, they're bad used cars. They're good new cars, they're bad new cars. Okay? So it really depends on what you want to do and how you want to do it.